For more than 1 million years, across dozens of extreme climate cycles, the mammoth family thrived all over the globe. In the Americas, the Columbian mammoth stood over 4 meters tall and weighed up to 9 tons. Looking at these massive sweeping tusks and towering skeletons, you can see the scale of an animal that spent its life migrating across vast ice-free plains. Their famous cousins, the woolly mammoths, took a different approach. Shorter and covered in dense meter-long fur, they adapted perfectly to the freezing, ice-choked steppes of Europe and Siberia. These massive herbivores were so robust that they easily held their ground alongside the predators of the Ice Age. Looking at the sheer size of these saber-toothed tiger fangs, you get a sense of how lethal their neighbors were, yet the mammoths flourished. They survived blistering warm periods and deep freezes. They were the undisputed heavyweight champions of the global ecosystem. Then, roughly 15,000 years ago, these titans started vanishing. There was no asteroid impact, no supervolcano erupted, and no sudden, inescapable deep freeze. This extinction was highly selective. It targeted large mammals almost exclusively, while smaller species and local flora carried on completely untouched. If a species can survive 1 million years of aggressive planetary shifts, what unseen force could wipe out millions of highly adaptable 9-ton beasts at the exact same time? This ancient cave painting highlights one of the most obvious suspects in their demise: us. Early humans and Neanderthal hunters regularly tracked and killed these massive creatures. Mammoths had a biological weak point. With a staggering 22-month gestation period, it took years for a herd to replace a single calf. Even light hunting pressure could severely damage a population's ability to rebound. But looking at the hominid fossil record, our ancestors walked the Earth alongside the mammoths for over 1 million years. While humans certainly butchered mammoths, our ancestors mostly targeted smaller, easier prey like deer and horse. The sheer longevity of our shared history suggests that human hunting was likely a secondary pressure rather than the primary cause of a global collapse. The real culprit only emerged when paleontologists started analyzing ancient dung and fossilized bones. Samples preserved in sinkholes reveal exactly what was on their dinner plate. Mammoths were strictly grazers, consuming up to 500 pounds of tough steppe grasses every single day. To process this abrasive plant matter, they developed an evolutionary superpower. This fossilized molar functioned like a conveyor belt. Notice the finely spaced enamel bands. As the mammoth chewed, these dense ridges ground down grasses, eventually wearing out and being replaced by a new tooth. Over millions of years, their biology became permanently, rigidly locked into this specific grassland diet. Around 15,000 years ago, global temperatures rapidly increased, triggering the sudden and dramatic retreat of the major ice sheets. The melting ice rewired the landscape. As you can see here, expanding forests and leafy canopies aggressively pushed into the open plains, erasing the grassy steppes. Those highly specialized teeth, engineered specifically to crush abrasive grass, were completely incapable of processing soft leaves and woodland shrubs. The very evolutionary advantage that kept them fed on the open plains guaranteed they would starve as the world turned green. Squeezed out by advancing forests and encroaching human settlements, the surviving mammoths were pushed out to the extreme, freezing margins of the Arctic. About 12,000 years ago, melting glaciers caused sea levels to rise, completely cutting off a small herd on a remote outcrop called Wrangel Island. This final refuge was a harsh, barren environment. The trapped population remained incredibly small, leading to severe inbreeding and genetic defects as they struggled to find viable food. Their timeline overlaps with our own human history in a striking way. The very last mammoth on Earth took its final breath in the Arctic around 4,000 years ago, right as humans built the pyramids of Giza. Extinction rarely looks like a fiery cataclysm. Most often, it's a subtle environmental shift that simply outpaces an animal's biological capacity to adapt. We see these exact same pressures today with the mammoth's closest living relative, the African elephant, navigating a rapidly warming world. The fall of the mammoth shows us that a species can be physically invincible and still remain vulnerable to a changing landscape. Protecting modern elephants requires more than just stopping hunters. It means ensuring the specific environment they are built to survive in remains intact.